I noticed the silence on the first day and laughed it off. Busy day at work? I asked as I stepped through the door, tossing my coat onto the rack. She didn't look up from her phone, didn't even acknowledge me. Her fingers scrolled endlessly, eyes glazed, lips tight. "I'm fine," she muttered, barely audible. I thought maybe she was stressed. That was reasonable. But by the third day, the silence had grown thick, suffocating. No morning greetings, no casual glances, no shared coffee at the kitchen table. I existed, somehow, in the same house as her, yet entirely invisible. Day 7 I tried again. Is something wrong? Did I do something? Her eyes flicked up, sharp and cold. Nothing. Stop asking. By the second week I stopped speaking first. I stopped trying to coax her into conversation. Every effort I made was met with a wall so impenetrable. I began to wonder if I had been living with a stranger all along. And then the truth started to leak out, small pieces at first. Her subtle phone habits. Closed apps whenever I entered the room. The faint scent of a perfume I didn't recognize. Laughs that weren't for me. It was day 14 when I saw it, the message notification on her phone. "Can't wait to see you tonight." I didn't want to look, but my eyes betrayed me. And just like that, the gnawing suspicion became a certainty. For the next 2 weeks I endured. I watched her from the corner of my eyes as she whispered in someone's ear, smiled at her screen, walked past me as if I were air. I told myself I deserved to know. I needed to know. I could have confronted her then. But the thought of her looking at me with those cold eyes, dismissing me like I had been dismissed every day, made my chest tighten. I wasn't ready to feel that sting out loud. Not yet. Day 28 arrived. By this point I felt like a ghost in my own home. I went through the motions, work, errands, cleaning, but inside I was unraveling. My mind replayed every memory, every shared laugh, every whispered promise. Betrayal is cruel not just for what it is, but for how it rewrites your reality. Every "I love you" suddenly tasted like a lie. Every smile a mask. That night I made a decision. I wouldn't yell. I wouldn't beg. I wouldn't cry. I would leave. Not in anger. Not in desperation. I would leave in quiet dignity, with one final gesture that would be both farewell and indictment. I went to the florist early the next morning. White lilies and roses. Flowers she used to love. I asked the florist to wrap them simply, without excess ribbon or frills. And I wrote the note carefully, deliberately. "Thank you for showing me who you really are. I hope you find happiness, but it won't be with me." I placed the bouquet at the kitchen table, where she would see it the moment she woke. I didn't wait for her to arrive. I didn't linger to witness the reaction. I turned my key in the lock, stepped out, and drove away, leaving the house and the life we had built behind. I spent the day wandering through the city, aimless, letting the reality of my solitude sink in. People passed me, living their lives, oblivious to the silent earthquake that had torn my world apart. I realized that betrayal isn't loud. It doesn't always come with a scream or a confrontation. Sometimes it's quiet, insidious, like a slow poison. By evening, I found myself at the park we had first visited together, where our laughter had once filled the air. I sat on the bench, watching the sunset bleed into the horizon, thinking of the years wasted in ignorance, thinking of the months I had spent being invisible in my own home. And then she appeared. She was standing at the gate, her phone clutched to her chest, eyes wide with a mixture of panic and confusion. When she saw me, her expression faltered. She had expected me to be there, maybe begging, maybe apologetic, but I wasn't. I don't understand," she stammered. Why are you here?" I looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I let myself breathe without fear. "You don't need to understand," I said softly. "I left the note." Her gaze dropped and I saw it. Guilt, fear, something fragile and unsteady. But it wasn't relief. It wasn't remorse. It was just her, finally facing the consequences of her choices. It wasn't like I wanted to hurt you," she said, her voice trembling. You hurt me every day for 28 days, I replied, hiding behind silence, pretending I didn't exist. That's not love. That's cowardice. She reached out, then hesitated. Please, let's talk. We can fix this. We can. No, I said, shaking my head, a calm certainty settling over me. We can't. Not this time. I can't go back to pretending, to hoping that one day you'll see me. I deserve more than being a shadow in my own life. I watched her lips move, forming words I didn't want to hear, and I felt a strange mixture of sorrow and liberation. Painful, yes, but honest finally. The years of pretense, of denial, of hoping she would come back to me had ended. I turned away from her, walking down the path that led out of the park, each step lighter than the one before. She called my name again and again, but I didn't stop. My heart ached, yes, but it wasn't broken anymore, it was free. That night, I stayed in a small hotel, alone, with nothing but my thoughts. I cried, finally, letting the grief pour out. I mourned the marriage that had once been full of warmth, of laughter, of love. I mourned the life I thought we shared. But I also felt something else, a quiet resilience, a spark of something stronger than sorrow. Hope. The following days were strange, surreal. Friends reached out, offering comfort. Family called, concerned but unaware of the full story. And through it all, I began to rebuild, piece by piece. I found solace in the routines I had once shared with her. Morning coffee, evening walks, quiet music. But now they were mine alone. And for the first time I felt ownership of my own happiness. Weeks later, I returned to the house to collect my things. The sight of her there, frozen in surprise and regret, didn't pierce me the way it once might have. I moved with calm precision, packing my belongings, taking only what I needed. She didn't speak. I didn't want her to. Words would have been cheap, empty. Silence said more than any apology ever could. As I locked the door for the last time, I glanced at the note on the kitchen table, faded slightly from the sunlight. Thank you for showing me who you really are. I hope you find happiness, but it won't be with me. I smiled faintly. It wasn't a smile of joy, but of acknowledgement, a recognition that pain, as sharp as it is, can also be a teacher. That loss, as devastating as it feels, can open the door to something new. I drove away, leaving behind not just the house, but the weight of betrayal, the illusion of a life that had never truly existed. I didn't know what the future held, and that was okay. For the first time in a long time, I didn't have to pretend. I didn't have to hope for love where it wasn't. I only had to live, and that was enough. Months passed. Life moved forward in ways both subtle and profound. I learned to sleep without waiting for her to come home. I learned to make plans without consulting her. I learned to laugh without the echo of betrayal haunting me. And one day I realized something extraordinary. I was happy. Truly happy, in a way I hadn't been in years. I never returned to that marriage. I never confronted her again. The flowers, the note, the silence, they had done their work. They had said what words never could. That I valued myself enough to walk away, that betrayal could not define me, that love, when genuine, must be reciprocal, or it is nothing at all. Sometimes late at night I think about that house, that apartment where I had become invisible. I remember the ache, the longing, the despair. But I also remember the strength I found in leaving. And I smile, knowing that the man who walked away on day 29 was not the same man who had waited, silent, for 28 days. He was better, stronger, unbroken. And that, more than anything, was worth it.